Hi everyone! Welcome to Note to Shelf. Since it's the start of 2026, I thought it would be fun to go over some of my reading goals for this year. I have a few pages dedicated to that in my reading journal. I know a lot of other YouTubers have already shown how they've set up their journals for 2026. And since my pages have already been done, this will be more of a flip through, and my focus will be more on my goals instead of the setup itself. So I guess we'll get right to it. Okay, so here's my journal. I got this from Notebook Therapy. I really like the hydrangeas on the cover. This particular design is no longer available, but they do have a lot of other cute designs, though they are a bit pricey if you're on a budget. Anyway, let's flip through the pages for this year. Okay, so here is my cover page for this year. You can see it's coming apart a bit here, but I have had this since 2024. So it's kind of understandable. So this is where my actual goals are written. Over here, we have the number of books I want to read this year. So this year, my goal is to read at least 48 books. And I will color in each of these circles as I go along. I do wish I hadn't drawn them black. But what's done is done. It's fine. On the other side here, I have a small list of other goals for this year. I've noticed last year that I was buying a lot more books, but I was also reading books from the library, a lot of the books that I got recommended. And I found myself prioritizing those library books because of their due date, right? But at the same time, I was buying more books, and my TBR, my physical TBR, was growing. And I didn't want to fall into that trap of having a huge physical TBR. So this year I want to prioritize reading my physical books, and there's quite a few. So I want to try to read at least half of them. You'll see a bit on the next page. I selected a few of them, I think 21 books. When I counted the total books on my TBR, there were about 42, so 21 would be about half. But I realized afterwards that there were some books that I missed. Maybe they were in a bag or in a different pile than where I was looking. And so they got missed. So the 21 books I have isn't quite accurate, but it's a start. Next up, I have read at least 2 nonfiction books. I don't really read nonfiction, but there are a few I've heard good things about, so I want to check those out. And so that's why I have this goal. My next one, continue reading more diversely. My goal last year was to read outside of my comfort zone. I was reading, my favorite genre is mystery, so I was reading a lot of mystery. But there's it's a certain kind of whodunit type mystery that I really like. And so I found it hard to get books and to check out books because I wanted something so specific. And so I thought I should try, reading outside of that zone, that comfort zone, and read other genres, especially fantasy, because I remember as a child I'd read a lot of fantasy as well, right? So I wanted to, diversify my reading that way. But I also wanted to make sure that I was reading stories by all kinds of voices, like POC authors or like LGBTQ plus authors, stories like that. I've been wanting to read more of, and I was doing that last year, and I just want to continue that this year. Next up is read at least 4 classics. I want to read those classics that everyone seems to have read in school, but I somehow managed to avoid. Like, I want to know what's up with all these stories everybody's heard of, except for me. Well, I mean, I've heard of them, but I've never actually read them myself. And I just thought I'd read at least 4 just to work towards that goal. Now, this section here for accomplishments, this is a space where I want to write some of the stats that I have at the end of the year. For example, like if I read more than my goal of 48 books, I want to write that down here just to know like exactly what I did read. You know, I could also put like the genre that I read the most of, you know, just really anything that I want to highlight at the end of the year. And so that's this cover page. Next up, I have my TBR page, and these are all book covers that I printed out. I used a Kodak photo printer, and I'll write somewhere what the exact model is and maybe link it if you're interested. And the photos do come out great. I do think that next time I will just like use regular printer paper, you know, regular sized printer paper. That way I can print out all these pictures at once and I won't have to go through multiple rounds of printing because the photo printer is small, and so I could only fit 9 covers on it at a time. And so then I had to, you know, create a new like photo layout that I could then print. I had to do that 3 times for this spread, and it would just be easier. And I don't necessarily care that it won't be as shiny. This is really just for me at the end of the day. Anyway, so all of the books that I have here are books that I own, that I have physical copies of. And these are the half of my TBR that I wanted to prioritize this year. You know, some of these are books that I've had for a while, and others are some that I got more recently, but these are the ones that I've been wanting to get to and the ones I'm excited to get to. So these are the ones that I'm prioritizing towards my reading my TBR goal. In this page, I plan on it being kind of like a checklist for me. And I was thinking that like once I've read a book, I could highlight the edges, you know, to show that I've read it. I'm not 100% sure yet if that's what I will do, but I'm thinking that's what I'll do. But I'll figure that out once I get there. Next up, I have a book challenge. I wanted to try out this book bingo. I watched a lot of people setting up their reading journals for 2026, and you know, I saw people making pages for different challenges. And I've never really done a book reading challenge outside of, you know, wanting to read X amount of books per year. Like, I've never done like these fun challenges like the book bingo. And so I wanted to try out one of them this year. And I just pulled random prompts from different book bingos that I found. Okay, for this space down here, honestly, I didn't plan very well. And so I ended up with this space on accident. I drew the board first and made it center on the page, and then I did the little title decorations. But like if I had done the title first, then I probably would have spaced the bingo board down to make it look nicer with the page. That was my mistake. So I was thinking for this bottom half, I would write down the titles for each book that I read that corresponded to a prompt, and that's why I numbered them here. And I thought I could write that down here. Of course, if I do a lot of them, I might not have enough space, but that's just another thing that I will figure out as I go. Okay, so this next page is to help me determine my favorite book of the year. I got this idea from another creator. I'll be sure to link their video down below. They had a lot of other cool spreads, so definitely go check that out if you're interested and want more ideas. But this is like a book matrix, and the idea is that it should help you determine your favorite book of the year more accurately compared to the popular book bracket battle that a lot of people use. Just because books don't get eliminated with this method like they would in the bracket battle. So for this, you would pick a book to correspond with each letter, and then you would have like book A goes against book B, and then you would write down whichever one wins. And say you picked book A, but you can still put book B against all the other letters that you have. And then at the end, you would count down how many times each letter showed up here, and from there, you can figure out what your favorite book was. And I think you could do however many you want. I decided to do 12 letters for each month. So each month I would pick my favorite book, and that book will go on to be part of this matrix. And that's just a little note to make a key to tell me what books go to what letter. But I obviously don't know what those books will be yet, so I can't do that yet. And then at the end, once I figure out what my favorite book is, I will put a little picture of it here. It's a little place of honor here. Next up, I have my series tracker. This particular layout I did get from another video I will also link down below. She had a lot of different spread ideas as well, so also definitely check her out if you're interested. I like how she did her series tracker. I thought it looked nice. And I thought I would try it this year because I realized there were a lot of series that I'm in the middle of, and a lot of them I wanted to continue. So I wanted to kind of make a list because I didn't have a list before. So it's like, what series am I in the middle of? What was it called again? I had no idea. And this isn't even all of them. I just fit as many as could go on here, but also picking the ones that I wanted to prioritize, or like the ones I was more excited to continue. And some of them, like, they were the first book of the series. Like, off the top of my head, these three, I read the first books, but their second books aren't coming out until later this year. So I'm looking forward to those books. But some of them, the series are already out. I wanted to continue those and keep track of what I've read and what I haven't. Most of them, I've only read the first book, and we'll see how far I get. This next page is my quarter one page for the months January, February, and March. I found that I can read a lot in like a week. Like any 1 week or 1 month, I might read a lot, but then I won't read for months. So I can't guarantee that I would read every month. So instead of making a cover page for every month, I lessened it to every quarter. And so that way, I'm not skipping months, or I make a cover page for a month and I don't end up reading for that month, and it feels a bit of a waste. But also this way I use less pages. And then also, it's like you don't have to, like go back and update your planner as often. to make those cover pages. It's not as much effort if you don't want to put a lot of effort into it. I am into, decorating journal pages like this. But for my reading journal, I do want to keep it very simple because ultimately this is more of a log for me for the books that I've read. So I don't want to put too much effort into it. But this works for me. And here on this page is where I will write down the titles of the books that I end up reading for these 3 months. And I'll update it, as I go. And then the following pages are where I would write the actual reviews. And they're blank right now. Right? And that'll take however many pages. And then once April comes around, I will make the cover page for quarter 2 and continue that same process. And that was my 2026 reading goals. I'm really excited for this year and getting to read and fill out my reading journal, and I hope you're excited for the new year as well, and I hope it's a good one for everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.